Joanne. Set this up. And we are good. All right. Hello, hello. Gonna work on the covers for Black Circus and I Have Volume 2. Hey Frost. I'm gonna do Black Circus first. Just need some reference of Joanne. How do I want her to look? Because I don't want to... Because a lot of times the covers are just kind of whatever. They're not entirely the representation of what's going to happen in the comic. But I at least want to like get some idea across of what's potentially going to be shown. Alright, this should be fine. And it would be good to plug this in. There we go. Alright. I think I want to do it this way. Anyway, I hope you guys are doing all right. No. This is mostly her reaction to swallowing a guy. But whether or not this scene actually happens in the comic is up in the air. But this kind of gets the idea across of what the short... Because this is like in between chapter 3 and 2. So this would be chapter 2.5. Because Secrets is... Well, the main story for Secrets is almost done. There's still the extra stuff that I want to do. But other than that, it's winding down, and pretty soon I'm going to do one more poll just to see if everyone still wants Creamfilled to be the next comic that I work on. And then we'll go from there. But yeah, I wanted to make some covers for this, and I had to, just so there's no confusion over what's going on in the comic. I go up a bit as if she's like twitching from shock. Well, it's mostly just because these scenes don't really do anything for the main story, but there's stuff that I've had planned that I don't want to just skip over. And it's like a little, it's basically just like some humorous moment in both comics' events, and I just kind of want to put them in there just because I've had them planned for years, and so I'm just like, I don't want to skip over it. So I'm just gonna call them half chapters or 2.5, whatever. They're gonna be really, really, really short, but that's why. Speaking of Joanne, did you see? Oh yeah, I saw that. I mean, she basically did that when she picked up Joanne from drinking. But yeah, I could always do like a cute little event. But as for going to a gala, I don't see that happening because neither of them are wealthy enough to be going to places like that. But if they went to like a small party and all that, I could see that being a thing. Where they both just have like some decent dresses or outfits and stuff, and Joanne just hangs around, squeaks. Get back to World Gate. World Gates is gonna, like, I will work on World Gates this year, as well as Buckle, but it's gonna be a slow burn because the biggest thing with World Gates is that there's so much stuff that needs to be adjusted and retconned because of, not only because of IHAD existing, but because of certain characters. Certain characters have changed, certain characters I don't feel like I should be using anymore due to personal reasons. And there's just a lot that needs to be reworked. So likely World Gates is going to get rebooted for the final fucking time. Or if there is something I can adjust without having to reboot it, then I will. But the odds are is that it's going to be rebooted because there's just way too much that needs to be reworked and tweaked. Buckle is being heavily redone because I wanted to lean more into horror. And then Black Circus and IHAD are still being worked on. Creamfield potentially might be worked on next, or if it doesn't get picked this time around, then it'll just get like mild updates, the same as the others that I was going to do. But yeah, there's just a lot. Yeah, Squeaks and Joanne could be someone's guest. I mean, if I were to put them in a scenario that would make that happen, it would most likely be with Mona, just because Mona knows Joanne, and they're like rivals. So odds are of her inviting Joanne are pretty decent. Like, I would say they're high enough that it could happen. If we're talking about in-universe storyline, that ain't happening. At least she wouldn't see Mona without putting on a few pounds from, you know, the Vor stuff. That's like when that would happen. But if we're just talking like, you know, just for shits and giggles, then yeah, I could do that. It's like when it comes to canon stuff, I'm trying to like stay in line with what would actually happen. But if we're just talking about, you know, draw it for fun, then yeah. I mean, at that point, I can do whatever. You know the drill on that. Force feeding and popping. Yeah, those are fun. Alright. to do. Kind of want her jaw to be open to be kind of surprised at what she's seeing. Actually, we can do better with their jaw. Just kind of want it to be a little bit more narrow. A little chubby though. That's kind of the point. That's why this feels weird. I was like, why are you like this? And I'm like, that's why. I was like, my eraser feels weird. I was like, that is why. How do you take it seriously? Can you be more specific? Like, what are you looking for? Exactly. Like, I don't mind answering questions, I just want to know if there is like something specific you wanted me to answer on that. Yeah, just shrink that a bit. Alien versus Predator. Ah, that's a good one. Well, to try to answer Ruby's question, I just draw what I want to draw and do what I can to make it worth everybody's while, I guess. I'm assuming that's what they're asking. But yeah, like, they're just stories I want to tell, and the whole nudity thing or whatever kinks and stuff like that that gets added is more of an afterthought. Or not an afterthought, but just secondary. Because, like, I'm more interested in the actual story, and everything else is just, you know, whatever the story is about. So if it's like, oh, this character is getting fat, or oh, this character is, you know, being a stripper or something like that, it's like, okay, cool, but that's just part of the story. Is not entirely the main focus. And let me check this to see if anything is missing. And then you be super chubby. Yeah, you guys gotta be careful what you say, because sometimes I'm not gonna see it. So I'll try to have my my other screen open so I can see comments that that don't show up. Because for some reason they're not showing up on this end, but they show up over here. So I'll try to pay attention. What if you don't have a story? Then you can always just either focus on just single picks or just have like a short comic that doesn't lead anywhere. Like, you can always do that. Like, you don't have to have a story, but if you do, then just, you know, put it together and run with it. Do I want her head to be like that? Or do I want it to be a little bit further? I think I want it to be a little bit further up to make it look like she's looking downwards. So I'll have to tweak that a bit. You can do that. It just heavily depends on what the not safe for work part is. Because if it's, okay, how do I put this? Because there are artists that do that separate the not safe for work and the safe from work. Just depends on what the not safe for work stuff is, because regardless of what it is, if there are people that don't want to support it, they will shy away from supporting the safe for work stuff. Not everybody will do that, but there's a chance that people will do that. So it just depends on what you're trying to do, and then it might be easier just to have them combined and just properly label them. Because the worst thing you want to do is get them mixed up, and I am not liking what I'm doing with this. Either not liking it, or there's just something off that's not gelling with me. Yeah, I think it's just the angle that I don't like. So let's do this. But yeah, you can do it. You just gotta make sure you're organized and do your best to not mix the two. But you also have to understand that people are gonna figure it out eventually. Especially if your art style is very easy to identify, then it's just gonna happen. And then if people do figure it out and they ask about it, it's better to just be honest than to try to hide it. Because if you try to hide it and then they figure it out, then it's worse, because then you're a liar about it. So, but yeah, it's up to you. Like it is doable though. I don't know the second person, but with Pyrocynical, he didn't really hide it. Just people know about it and then sometimes joke about it, and that's kind of it. I don't know who the other person is though, so I don't have an opinion on that person. Or if I do know who they are, I don't recognize the name. Let me just Google them real quick. Oh, that person. Yeah, I think that person should have just owned it. I remember a little bit of his situation. Yeah, he should have just owned it. Instead of pretending that he, It's paying the ins and outs. I'm not safe. It's not even that. It's just I'm not afraid of not safe for work content, and I never have been. And honestly, I think it's just the way people handle not safe for work content is, what's the best way to phrase it? Because like the first thought comes to the first word that comes to mind is pathetic, but that's not like the actual expression I want to say about it. It's just the way people treat not safe for work content. It's almost like they're just being prudish about it for no reason. It's like they'll make it sound like it's weird and stuff like that, and it's like, guys, I know damn well a lot of you do weird shit, and you just don't think it's weird because it's something you like. And again, and then the other problem is they always keep conflating artwork with real life, and that's the other issue, is that they should not be doing that. And if they do, that says more about them than it does about the artist. Because the artist can just draw whatever, and regardless of the theme, they could think nothing of it and just be like, okay, that was a thing I drew, moving on to the next thing, and then they draw like robots or something. But then the person who's like freaking out over like, oh no, they drew this character wearing a diaper or something, or inflation, or weight gain, or they're naked, or somebody's throwing a shit ton of money on them while they're being covered in, I don't know, barbecue sauce or some shit. They'll like freak out over that. And then meanwhile the artist is just like, what? It's like, what the hell are you losing your mind over? And the best way I can say is that people react to adult content very immaturely, which is like kind of ironic. And there's like a greater discussion about it, but it's just, I don't know. Especially when all that, like, and I understand that some people that, like, okay, like Twitter, for example, is definitely not the best place to be posting mature content without filters and stuff like that, which Twitter does have, but I understand not a lot of people use them. Or if they do use them, you know, if you have your filters turned off, then obviously you're going to see that content and then assume that, oh, people are posting this, oh, you know, you have like a younger audience, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, guys, if you're seeing it and there wasn't like a filter thing over it, check your settings, because if you have your thing turned off, that's on you. for seeing that content because you chose to have that filter turned off so that way you would see that stuff immediately. And if you're following people that have that content, then that, again, that's on you for seeing it. As for, oh, you know, you might have a younger audience, it's like, look, people are going to lie about their ages and follow you, or they're going to see something that you drew on another site and find out that you have a Twitter and follow you there anyway. You have zero control over who follows you. You can put up warnings, you can put up, like Twitter doesn't have a function where you can mark your account as 18 and older, and if anyone younger than 18 or whatever tries to follow or tries to see your stuff, then they're just automatically, you know, prevented from seeing that. The only other way is if they set their thing to private or whatever it is, and only certain people can follow them. That's like the only other thing I can think of. But you have zero control over that shit, and I don't know why people keep thinking that, oh, you know, younger people follow you, so you shouldn't be having X, Y, and Z, and it's just like, that is not my fault. And if that's a problem, then you should be discussing this with their parents. Chibi versions of my characters. I know. There's only been like 3 chibis that I've ever drawn. Because I'm too busy doing everything else. I've only done Blueberry Jam, Raz, and Becky, if memory serves. If I've done anybody else, then I don't remember. But yeah, I think people just... Oh yeah, I did do Marcy. I forgot about that. But yeah, like, I think people go out of their way to bitch about things that they should not have even gotten themselves into in the first place. And then when it comes to like certain content itself, it's like, guys, they're drawings, they're not real. Can we like stop pretending that they are and stop wasting time and resources trying to get rid of fictional stuff when we should be putting those time and resources into actually helping whoever it actually affects? Like, I don't understand why we're conflating the two. Did I do Plum? I probably did. I know it's been a while. If we're talking about that icon that's on Discord, that one wasn't done by me. That was done by Nano. But yeah, it should boil down to, if you're making not safe for work content, properly label it and tag it so that way underage people don't just see everything automatically. And that's basically all you can really do. If it becomes an issue, then do your best to defend yourself. Don't be... The best way I can put it, and I know this is not an easy thing for people to do, is if it escalates and becomes a bigger problem, you know, stick to your guns and actually fight for it. Because if you don't, then this problem will just keep happening, or even worse, your situation in which you were perfectly, you know, valid in making will be turned into a negative. And then it just hurts everybody in the end. Because we're already having that issue when it comes to gaming and payment processors, so it's only getting worse if people don't fight it. Hopefully I never get into a situation like that, but I feel that if it did happen, I would attempt to fight it, because I think it's ridiculous, and I really hate that certain things are... What's the word I'm looking for? Are prohibited by people who are ignorant. It's like you have to appeal to the dumbest person to make anything actually happen. Well, the problem is that fighting the power is incredibly expensive, and unless you actually win, it's just going to be a huge negative. And it's entirely ridiculous. And the sad thing is, it's a scenario that shouldn't happen in the first place, but unfortunately, that happens way more often than you would think. But yeah, there's definitely more I would like to say on it, but it just depends on the subject matter. YouTuber just needs better TOS to allow stuff rather than ban words and. Well, it's not even that, because the thing is that YouTube is weird because they want to appear as they're family friendly, but they also say that they allow certain content like, you know, the naked yoga and certain curse words and blah blah blah. But then they'll demonetize if something seems too risque, even if it's tame. And so they're kind of like all over the place on that. And the people who say like unalive and all that, they're just trying to make sure their stuff isn't demonetized. But honestly, I think they're just all fucking pussies at this point. And it's like, look, if you're gonna make a video that's going to cover mature themes or things that you obviously wouldn't be discussing around people that are younger than 18, like I'll even say younger than 16, because there are some people who are 16 and older, or I mean, obviously this can range from anybody really, but let's just say 16. There are people that are like 16 and older that can actually handle heavier discussions, but let's just assume that anything below that can't. If you're making content that is still attracting those type of audience, then you need to shy away from making stuff like that. Like, if you're going to talk about heavier shit, then take the bullet, take the chance that, yes, it could be demonetized or it could be restricted to you, so the possibility of making less money is a thing. But if you're going to be talking about heavier shit, stop being a fucking pussy about it and say actual words or descriptions of things. If someone's going to die, you say die. Don't say unalive, or don't say game end, or don't say end of service, or whatever makeshift phrases that you have to say to try to get around that. It's really dumb. Because all you're doing is destroying the English language at that point. Or language in general. And again, that's just me. That's how I would handle it. Because if I want to make other content that doesn't do that, then just do that. But I understand why people are doing it. I still think it's stupid. But I don't know. Maybe if I get into that position, then I'll see what I truly believe in at that point. But pretty damn sure I wouldn't care. And I'll just be like, okay, that video was too heavy. Gonna have to tone it down a bit. Okay, drew her a little bit too big, so let's shrink her down a bit. Trying to accommodate for the title. Whatever adjustments I have to make, I'll do them. But yeah, I'll have to zoom out for this for a bit. Thank you. But yeah, like I just have a large stance when it comes to mature content, but it's gonna be hard to know how I actually handle it once I'm in an actual position that warrants my attention in that matter. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do it this way. Yes, this is another cover for a different chapter. Oh. Thank you for the follow, Vexy Shadow Art. And that was on Twitch, which I'm not even streaming on, because I don't have the dual streaming thing. But thank you anyway. Eventually I'll stream again on Twitch, but I'll probably just stream gaming stuff. Might have to pick a day for that. But I mean, at that point I'm just better off just streaming on YouTube. Okay, if we're gonna have her neck like that, then we'll have to do it this way. Just to make it look like the length of her body is behind her belly. Yeah, I'm gonna shrink her down a bit more. Just so we can... There we go. Whatever adjustments I need to make, I'll do them. There's still adjustments I have to make to her. I'm just kind of roughing it out for the moment, just so I can see everything. And then I'll like tweak whether or not she's chubby. And again, this is a cover. It's not supposed to... The idea is to get your attention, but not entirely spoil anything. So whatever is on the cover isn't necessarily what's going to be shown in the comic itself. Although the exception, well, there was an exception to that, which was the original cover for Chapter 2, but due to changes in a lot of things, that particular scene didn't happen yet. So I want to eventually get to that, but that's why I made the secondary Chapter 2. Or the second cover. No. If I did, I'd have to really be in the moment. What, did I cut out or something for a moment? Nope. Never heard of it. Let's see. What the hell? Cancel. Why? What the hell? Okay, don't know why that is there, why it opened up like that. I already have werewolf characters. I have quite a few actually. No. Because the only images of that is the character in risque situations, and I cannot show that. If I do have artwork of them, I don't know if they are saved, so I would have to, or on my computer, so I'd have to look for them elsewhere. But maybe another time. Alright, so let's adjust this just a little bit. Yeah, like I have not scanned every character that I've made into my computer at the moment. There are still quite a number that I have not put in here. And a lot of them have been around since I was in high school. Alright, take care. Have a good day. So the hard part is factoring in how to make her chubby but not too chubby. That's gonna be the challenge. Especially since she's segmented, or at least has segmented parts of her scales and all that. So that's gonna be a pain in the ass. I'm sure there are ways I can do it. I just gotta practice and research. So let's not add too many lines. Let's only do that when she's actually bending her body. No. Gaining weight is the easy part in terms of making them just fat and all that. The hard part is the middle part. When you gradually do it. Because you don't want to go too far too soon. That's the hard part. Making them fat and gain weight, that's the easy part. The in-between is the hard part. Oh, I know what I'm doing. I just wanted to do it in the way that I'm thinking. And I don't want to rush it. But it's the in-between parts, because you gotta balance out when the character is actually gaining weight. And how soon, because again, I'm going off of like actual time and stuff like that for my stories and all that. So I'm trying to take everything I can into account. Especially since, in Joanne's case, she's not, like, magical or being influenced by, you know, another character's powers or some shit like that. So she's not just gonna like, balloon up immediately. If anything, she's just gonna be chubby. Or a little chubby, because she only ate one guy right now. Like what we're seeing right here, this is more of an exaggeration because whether or not she's going to have this big round gut is up to debate for the moment. But after a certain point, it'll be incredibly easy to just make her, like, you know... Hold on, let me save, just to have an example. So, like, in the future, it'll be easy to just make her, like, you know, here's her head, here's this part, whatever's bloated up and big, fattened up, blah blah blah. Maybe has a big fat tail, blah blah. Like, doing all this, maybe exaggerate this to like big old gut here, stuff like that. Like, all that is gonna. This part is like actually way more easier than what I'm doing right now. Because what I'm doing right now, I'm trying to be subtle. And subtlety is the hard part. Especially once I have Joanne leave and go to the Vor bar with Red. I need to show Joanne in just like an aftermath stage. So she's probably going to have like a bit of a chubby face, a bit of a chubby body, but she's definitely not going to have like this big gut. She's just going to be more like, this. So like, here's her body's just going to be like, so let's just say normally her body is like this. It's like this is normal, you know, typical snake. How I would like her to be would be more like, let me just change the color of this. So probably with like a small gut, nothing too crazy. So kind of like that, chub up her neck just a little bit, so it'd probably be like a little bit more round areas here and there. Maybe just a little bit bigger gut here, just because I'm trying to balance out the back part of her body. And then maybe some parts of her will be a little bit rounded out, just to show that she's, you know, put on weight here and there. And then maybe some emphasis on like the backside over here. And then of course, you know, chubbier face just a little bit. So that would be the aim for it. It just boils down to how I'm gonna make her look, because if I want her, you know, dressed up and stuff like that, then she'll probably have like ill-fitting clothing and stuff like that. Hello. I'm working on a cover for the in-between chapters for Black Circus, so this would be like chapter 2.5. And right now I'm just making a cover, and the cover is just, for the most part, just shits and giggles, because whether or not what's being depicted actually happens in the comic is up in the air. But I'm just trying to have like a cover just so it's easier to tell where the chapters break and stuff like that. But yeah, right now I'm just having Joanne be in like a process of getting fatter. So maybe like a little bit more of a chin here. Because we're still way too early for her to be, you know, a gluttonous slob or a gluttonous eater. Because we still haven't even gotten to the part where she just kind of lets herself go. Yeah, Black Circus has to do with basically... Okay, so the best way to put it is iHat itself is based off of background characters from another comic I do, or put on hiatus, called World Gates. And Black Circus has to do with some of the more villainous or just darker characters of the iHat series. Yeah, see, when it comes to like chubbing up the face, it's like you gotta take your time, because like a lot of people, from what I've seen at least, it's like after like you have a character's face and it's like, you know, normal, but like after they've like done one thing to to stuff their face and stuff like that, or put on weight, then all of a sudden the character's just like this, like almost immediately, like their face is just huge, like the second time around. What you want to do is just, you know, be more subtle. Like, I mean, and again, this is all based on whether or not you actually have a story going on, and if there's and like if time actually matters in your universe. And so, again, I'm going off of trying to be as realistic to this whole fantasy scenario as possible. It's like, these are the things that would actually happen. I'm not trying to turn it into a comedy thing where nothing in the world matters and you can just have the characters do whatever. Like, oh, the character's bigger than a building, but they can somehow fit inside of a building without breaking the door, type of thing. So, that's what I'm getting at. And I'm probably in the minority in this, at least when it comes to this theme. I'm probably in the minority of trying to treat it this way. But that's just how I want to do it. Because I'm trying to be serious about what the characters are doing. Because it will affect other characters and other events depending on, you know, who interacts with who. So, like, for example, when Marcy and Skylar go to that seafood place, Jolly is there, and then as well as Joanne's boss. And Joanne's boss kind of hints at what's going to happen with Joanne, if anyone was paying attention to that page. So, yeah. And I throw in subtle hints like that all the time. Like, I did the same thing with I Had Secrets, to see if anyone was paying attention. And so far, nobody's noticed, so... If they notice, they notice. If they don't, oh well. It'll come up eventually. Whenever I revisit those characters. To be fair, it is hidden. Like, I'm subtle with it on purpose. Mostly to see if anyone actually pays attention and reads the damn thing. Which, a lot of the time, it's usually like 1 or 2 people, maybe 3, that actually figure it out. But yeah, I'm just trying not to ignore how this stuff would work. Especially when it comes to, like, characters being, like, having special powers that just makes something really outlandish happen. But then the followers or fans want it to be treated as more comedy, and I'm like, guys, you gotta remember, this isn't common. It'd be really easy for these characters to figure shit out if I just let it happen. Or treat it as a comedy. It'd be like, wait a minute. Or, well, if I treat it as a comedy, then I can just make characters stupidly oblivious. But in terms of, like, keeping everything in line, no, it just would not work that way. And it's mostly, like, the biggest example, though, is the Chapter 5 neutral ending with Tiffany. Like, that just made no sense. Yeah, I like that too, because like even when I read like, you know, hentai or other kink comics and fetish comics, whatever the difference is between the two, um, I do like the setup and plot that helps the theme make more sense and work. Because when it's just kind of done and it becomes aimless, then I'm like, okay, we're kind of missing the plot here. And then it kind of just waters down the theme and makes it kind of like not as fun when it's not done in a particular way. But I've been guilty of, you know, messing that up a few times, which is why I tried to correct that when it came to the neutral ending for iHat for Volume 1. And that was a learning experience. And I feel that it's definitely helped me get better at this. You wish you were Insider. Yeah, there's a lot that's gonna happen with Joanne. Because remember, this is Black Circus Volume 1, so she's supposed to be not exactly the start of Black Circus, but just kind of like, because Black Circus itself is a entity that exists in prior, but she's like the one who kind of loses herself first in terms of being part of that particular group. And the stuff that happens with her is going to be very, very depressing. But yeah, Black Circus in general is a dark series. It's not supposed to be happy. Because like even when I do Blake's or Skylar's Black Circus comics, there's going to be a lot of dark stuff going on. Especially in Blake's scenario. Blake's is just going to have a very bad time. It kind of, like, her story kind of gets a little bit better because of the true ending of iHat Volume 1 when we see her and Marcy when they're older. So there's like a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel. But when we see her actual like story and the events that lead up to her situations and all that, it's just gonna be really dark and depressing as well. But yeah, Black Circus is not supposed to be happy. And then there are some Black Circus characters that are just really sadistic. And then one of them is in a insane asylum, which she does escape and kind of, she technically crossovers into another series, but she can be in whatever. She's not like locked into a particular storyline or a particular series. But yeah, some of the characters have already been hinted, or I think all of them, either some or all of them have been hinted in iHat already. Okay, so did all that. Just gotta draw her. Thank you. Just gotta do her scales or her underbelly, and then we'll pretty much be able to color. But yeah, this cover isn't supposed to be too complicated. It's just her reacting to her sudden weight gain. Not that she's entirely surprised. It's like, yeah, she just swallowed a guy. What was she expecting? But it's just a short chapter, mostly to show the aftermath of her swallowing the one guy. He has a name, it's just kind of meh. Because, like, I only gave him the name because someone suggested it because he looked like a character from... because they said he looked like a character from Monty Python. So I was like, sure, why not? But originally he didn't have a name. But his name is Tim. That's the name we gave him. So yeah. So yeah, this will be the aftermath of her swallowing Tim. Alright. Another thing is I have to pay attention to the round parts of her body when she's putting on weight, so that's going to be another challenge in the future. But this should be fine, because again, we're having segments of her body that are just like whatever. So they're not entirely supposed to line up. Now let's do this more in the middle. Yeah, he originally wasn't supposed to have a name because he wasn't important. But fans were like, he looks like the guy from Monty Python. And I was like, fuck it, why not? It's not like it matters. Didn't change anything. Yeah, let's do a bit better on that. Yeah, that's better. And I think we're good. I'm not trying to go crazy on that. But yeah, if there's any actual hard part of this, it's just trying to get her markings and stuff like that lined up with her body. So that'll be the bigger challenge in the future. I feel those are too big. Just kind of shrink those down a bit. But yeah, body patterns will be the death of you if you try to go crazy with certain characters. But yeah, chapter 2 or 2.5 is mostly just humor stuff that I wanted to do for Black Circus and I Have Volume 2. So like for Black Circus, it'll be about just the aftermath of Joanne swallowing Tim, or digesting Tim at this point, and then Squeak's reaction to seeing Joanne with a large belly. Because again, it's not like Joanne's gonna digest them all immediately, so she's still gonna have like pretty decent sized belly. And then her face will be a little bit chubby from digesting them. And then for I Hat Volume 2, it'll be about Andy buying Emerald clothing because she currently has no clothes. And so that means he has to go to a lingerie store. And probably bring Emerald with him, but she'll be wearing his clothes, so they'll be drooping off of her. Or she'll be walking around with just a big long shirt and no underwear. Or if she is wearing something else like pants or whatever, she has to have like a belt on. Or whatever can be wrapped around her to tighten it up. So that'll be funny to have Andy have to deal with that. It's a little bit of snake rules, and it's also a little bit of just like a little bit of sped up, because obviously if I want things to continue on the way I want them to continue, obviously there'll be some exaggeration. But yeah, like again, Joanne doesn't have any special abilities happening to her, so she has to digest normally. It's not like Marcy, where Skylar can cause the food to digest rather quickly. And that's how she fattens up a lot faster than normal. But yeah, there's going to be some element of exaggeration just so things happen a little bit sooner, but I'm still trying to be at least somewhat realistic about it. But by the time Joanne meets Red, she would have most likely digested Tim by then, because the time frame is a week, is at least at least four or 5 days, because she's supposed to meet her on like a Friday or something like that, and I can't remember what day it's supposed to be currently in the comic. If I say it's Friday, then it'll give her a week to digest, which is perfectly fine. So I'll probably go with that. I'll probably just say it's Friday when she swallows Tim, or going into Saturday, and then that'll give her more than enough time to completely digest him. Think we're good. Probably just add like an extra line here for the hell of it. Darken our lips just a bit. And I'll probably start Joanne's chapter with her looking at the scale going like, Jesus Christ, type of thing. Assuming she says something like that. Or whatever comes to her mind. She's just gonna be looking at herself going like, what the hell? Alright, so this is fine. Empty space up there because I need it for the title. Alright, so let's just go into coloring her. Character art. Joanne. Thank you. Forgot I did that. Anyway. Turn that off. Alright, take care, Frost. Have a good day. Hello, hello. Welcome. I keep forgetting that a lot of this I can skip by just doing this. I can actually do this because a lot of these layers go past her skin layer. This will save me a lot of time. Always gotta remember, work smarter, not harder. But sometimes there will be some parts that you just can't skip. should be fine. I do need the inside of her mouth though. So I need another page for that. Alright, what can I open that won't get me screwed over? Okay, we can do that. You know what? It's probably smarter if I just do this. Just erase so it doesn't work. Clean up just in case. And that should be fine. I'll have to zoom in later to see if there's anything here that shouldn't be here. Yeah, it's a little bit slightly more work, but who knows? Probably save some time here and there. Just depends. There we go. Yeah. When, like, if you realize the amount of nonsense I've done for each page, you'd be sitting there going like, wait, so he did that this many times? For this many pages? For this many comics? Because, like, let me find it. Because, like, if I go to iHat on eAnti just to make this easier. So my uploads, I have volume 1. So not counting any of the extras or the bad epilogue or neutral epilogue, not counting any of that, just strictly I have volume 1 and were there any extra covers that I did for this? I'm sure there's like at least one extra cover somewhere. It was probably in later ones, but yeah, if we were to just count everything that I did for I have volume 1, not including extras, it is 829 images. So that's including covers and then the pages themselves. And then some of them are in color and some of them are in like full render. So just let that sink in. And that's just I have volume 1. That's not counting everything else I've done. Because if I were to count the extras, or some of the extras, I'm not going to go through all of them because there's way more than just that. But just counting some of the extras, there are, like, if I count everything here, there is 100 in just these, And then there's still Dating a Chubby Chaser, the epilogues, some of the archive stuff. Yeah, like there is a lot. And a lot of that I tried to get through in like a very short amount of time. And that's just I Have Volume 1. I'm not even counting like, you know, Creamfield or Black Circus and all that. And then with Creamfield, you gotta remember, for Kiwi's comic, that comic involved cards. And I had to make cards for every single goddamn scene, especially new cards that didn't exist until that point. And those cards are real. You can play them in real life. So think about that. Yeah, be careful with that. Don't want to leave your doors open. Alright, anyway, back to this. Pretty sure I have this the same color. Yeah, it is. So yeah, if you're an insane madman who's willing to do all that for their art, then yeah, that's basically a true artist there. And there are plenty of people that do shit like that that are crazy. Or like when you think about it with Batman the Animated Series, the animators for that series were drawing on black pieces of paper. You gotta remember that, because the scenes in that show were usually dark all the time, so they just drew on black paper or painted the backgrounds in black. You gotta remember that shit. Oh yes, Gem. Gem is a favorite, or one of my favorites. The hell? Oh. Would help if I clicked on the right thing. Well, I mean, her full name is Blueberry Jam. It doesn't matter, you can call her Blueberry or Jam. It's not like it's a sin to get her name wrong. Although I could see her freaking out. It's like this is the name I was given by my creator. Call me as such. Just see her just spazzing out for a moment. And then her sisters would just be like, Jam, chill. Nope, not Joanna, just Joanne. And then her last name is Wolf. So let that be a bit of a head scratcher. No real reason why I named her that, I just wanted to. Although it could lean into her eating people because of the big bad wolf, so that would technically make sense, but it was definitely not planned. I do want to do a scene where she, since she is an actress, I do want to do a moment where she gets to do the role of the big bad wolf, and like her air quotes partner in that scene is somebody dressed up as Red Riding Hood, and then she eats them. So I do want to do something like that. I wonder if the artwork will be printed on mousepad as pillows. Who knows, maybe someday. It would be cool to have like a long body pillow of Joanne. She's fairly long, she's like a few feet. Or how long would she be? I'd have to look, because I know I have her bio, but I'm not entirely sure if it would be completely accurate. Let me check real quick, just so I can get a headspace on how long that would be. So about 7'3" long, if she were a body pillow. Well, the evil part comes from what she does in order to keep eating people. Because eating Tim was a struggle. So, if she plans on doing that as a career, she's going to need help. And then that's when all the problems start happening. And like Red said, there is an ethical way of doing it, but it slowly becomes unethical. And that's where she slowly gets her position in the Black Circus. Yep, Joanne Wolf. The blueberry butt mousepad. That would be funny. Just have Jam's fat ass as a mousepad. Yeah, there's a little bit more to it, but yeah, that's pretty much what's gonna happen. It's just gonna be her super devotion to not being... Like, on one end, it's like devotion of trying to get perform her work and also, you know, be recognized as a good actress. But also is like her complete commitment and what she's willing to give up to get there. So a lot of sacrifice will be involved in her comic. And then some sacrifices she's going to regret. Let's put this a little bit more gray. Got the scale. Gonna go as far as I can before time is up, and then we'll finish this for tonight's stream. That way I can work on other stuff off stream. Alright, so far here's Joanne just kind of reacting to the scale. Not like she can properly get on the scale anyway, but just a little nod to the fact that she's aware that she's put on weight. If she were to get on the scale, she'd have to like wrap herself all around on top of it. But that ain't happening. Or she'd need a bigger scale to accommodate her body. Or just one that's made for snakes. But she never really had to think about that, so that's why she's just using Squeakses. She's like, oh dear God. Yeah, I would say it's more just curiosity, because you know how, regardless of what timing it is, sometimes when you go to the restroom and you see the scale, you'll just stand on it anyway. Regardless of whether the timing was proper or not. So it's just one of those type of mentalities where she's aware that she's not done, but you know, it's not like it's gonna make her any happier. If anything, it's just gonna be like, okay, if I weigh this much now, how will I be after I digest? But then it's not gonna make her feel any better because she already knows that she's put on a decent amount of weight. So it's just a lose-lose scenario. And then she still has to come up with her excuse to Squeaks on why she has this big old belly. It may not be this big, but it'll still be a decent size. A noticeable size. It's like, honey, you ain't hiding that. You better come up with a really good story. Oh, I'm sure she can easily find a big enough scale. But that's if she even cares to weigh herself after a certain point, because she's gonna be like, no, I already know I'm fat. What's the point of me looking? And then she does have a few reptile friends, so it's not a difficult task. She just never needed it for herself until getting curious and looking. Luckily she is a snake though, so she can digest bones. So there's a plus on that. She won't have to hack them up and then be discreet when throwing them away. And then I definitely need to design the Celestial that's in charge of Black Circus, because he will be a bit of a factor. That pushes Joanne forward more and more. Depends on when you would interact with her. If we're talking about right now, she wouldn't do anything. Later down the line, that decision might be a little less likely. I could see Joanne like weighing herself again later down the line just to find out, and like don't show what the scale says, and then it just cuts to her tossing the damn thing in the trash. Not that she thinks it's wrong, but just she just doesn't want to deal with that. She's like, no, fuck this. So that'd be a fun humor moment to do in the future. And I'm sure Squeaks will give her some belly rubs. After being told whatever reason Joanne comes up with for why she has a big belly. So no worries there, she'll be taken care of. And then she already showed that she likes it when Red rubbed her belly. Oh cool, have fun. Alright. Almost done with this part. Alright. Next part. Oh wait, need to get the scale. Oh, I forgot one thing. Gonna stop in a bit. I just want to get some of this done. There's still quite a bit to do, but yeah, the background would be kind of simple, since it's mostly just focused on her reaction, but I'll try to put a little bit of detail into it. And again, this is like an incredibly unimportant chapter. It's mostly here for humor. But then chapter 3 is when things escalate. Chapter 3 will be the longest because a lot of stuff got cut from chapter 2 and pushed into chapter 3. So chapter 3 is definitely going to be the longest chapter. I could possibly break it up into like chapter 4 and 5 and stuff like that. I don't want to. I mean, it honestly doesn't really matter because they'll all be the same thing anyway, just split into different chapters. So we'll see. We'll see how I feel about it when I finally get around, when I finally start working on chapter 3. Because it can always be broken up into like different points of when Joanne starts getting worse and worse. For I-Hat, chapter 3 is definitely going to be its last chapter. Because there really isn't much else that happens with Andy and Emerald until a certain point. And even then, it's nothing like super critical. It's just what happens in their story. And there'll still be like an extra chapter that I want to do, or like an extra bonus segment that I want to do. But that'll be much later. Just clean some of this up a bit. Yeah, like, aside from the twist that's gonna happen in chapter 3, or be revealed in chapter 3, there really isn't much else because we see most of the aftermath with in Marcy's story, where we see Emerald working with Andy at the hot dog place. But other than that, like, there's only like one big twist that happens, and then that's pretty much the end. Like, there's nothing more to build on it unless I want to build on it. And honestly, I don't think I want to, because I want I want the audience to want to question the scenario and try to figure out if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Alright, so that's basically it for now. I will finish this up tonight. But yeah, thank you everybody for coming. I will see you guys tonight at 9 p.m. Pacific time and just finish this off. Maybe work on I Have Volume 2's middle chapter cover. And yeah, that'd be kind of it, really. So yeah, you guys have a good day. Take care, and I'll see you guys later.